Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our third plenary session. My name is Laili. I am the lecturer of the Assessment and Evaluation Department in ALTC. For your information, this session will also be broadcast on our online platform for our online participants. To those who are watching this broadcast session on your gadgets, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section. We will collect the questions and pass to our panel. I will now invite both of our moderator and our plenary speaker to go on stage. Please welcome Ms. Puvana and Puan Anis ALISYA.
Hi everyone, good evening. How are you doing today? Good? Had dinner? Decent enough? Lovely, lovely. Once again, I'm Puvana, or rather, in the wise words of Taylor Swift's anti-hero, it's me, hi. I'm Puvana, it's me. Anyway, thank you for coming for this final plenary session for today and for this conference. And with us, we have someone who's really esteemed and, but I'll have to introduce her. She needs no introduction, to be honest, but I'll introduce her anyway. So allow me to introduce Puan Anis ALISYA binti ABDULLAH, the Director of Teacher Training Institute, Tun Abdul Razak Campus, IPGK Tun Abdul Razak. So Puan Anis here obtained her academic and professional qualifications in science and TESOL from the National University of Malaysia, UKM, and University Malaya, respectively. She attained her postgrad certificate, PGCE, in trainer development in University College of St. Mark and St. John. So, Puan, it's also my alma mater. So, yeah, particularly strong affinity there. She began her journey as an academic teacher in 1991 and subsequently held responsibilities as a senior assistant. In 2005, she moved to IPGK Batu Lintang, Kuching, Sarawak, where she held the position of an academic lecturer and as well as the head of the English language unit. She was appointed Deputy Director of IPGK Batu Lintang in 2015, a post she has held until 2019. Currently, bear with me, it's a long more to go. Currently, she's a Pensyarah Cemerlang Grade Khas C at the Institute of Teacher Education, Tun Abdul Razak, Kota Samarahan, Sarawak. Puan Anis here also was awarded the Sarawak State Award of Darjah Utama Yang Amat Mulia Bintang Kenyalang Sarawak, Pingat Bintang Kenyalang PBK 2021. She's definitely something that we are all very proud of. At the international level, she's received the Golden Globe Tiger Asia Edition 2022 award on behalf of IPG Tun Abdul Razak as the topmost educational institutions of Pullman Hotel Kuala Lumpur, which was presented by Asian Confederation on Business, CMO Asia, and stars of the industry group. Now, I'm not done yet. Hang on, bear with me. Okay, the latest award she's received was Professor Indra Parikh's 50 Women in Education by the World's Congress Award, which was presented to her in Mumbai, India in July 2023. Now, let us put our hands together and welcome Puan Anis. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give her one more time a round of applause? Wow. So, Puan Anis, the stage is all yours. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Ms. Puvana, we were debating on how I should be doing my presentation, whether I should sit down or whether I should stand up here or whether I should be standing up there. What do you reckon? Any which way, okay. Right, then I'll choose to sit down. Is that okay with you? Okay, so thank you very much, Ms. Puvana, for that introduction. I did try to stop her from reading everything, but she insisted. But anyway, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? Still up, still energetic, still open to listening to some more sharing? You are a very motivated group. Now, I feel very honored to be to share with a group of relatively young teachers. I say relatively young teachers because I've got a year more to go. So whatever age you are young to me. Yeah? And also in the audience, I'm glad to see former students as well, and they're all doing very well, and I'm very proud of them. Either they are from IPG campus Batu Lintang or IPG campus Tun Abdul Razak. Shout out from the campus Batu Lintang group. There's one whole row of them there. And IPG campus Tun Abdul Razak, I know there is at least one here, Taufik. Yeah, I got to know him this evening while we were having dinner. Yeah? Okay, now let's see. Assessment for learning, measuring what matters most. Probably I'll stand up. Okay, that's easier for me. Okay, you don't mind, Puvana?
Not at all.
They're alone there. Okay, assessing for learning, measuring what matters most. I have been following the conference over the past 2 days, and I have been, I feel privileged to be able to listen to some really thought-provoking ideas on assessment, particularly on formative assessment. And whatever it is that I'm going to share tonight would probably be a validation of what you've been hearing for the past 2 days. The message that runs through the past 2 days is very clear on assessment, yes? So tonight, I would see my presentation as more of sort of a summary of what have been touched on. And I hope that my sharing tonight could further encourage and motivate you to go on doing your best to impact your students' learning. That's my hope for tonight, so that when we all go back motivated, we go back energized, and we go back even more passionate than when we arrived at Dorset Hotel yesterday evening. Right, you've been listening to a lot of talk this past 2 days. Let me ask you a question. What does success mean to you? Now, I'm going to give you 1 minute to ponder on what success means to you. No talking, no sharing, just pondering on what success means to you. Is that okay with you? Right, 1 minute. Puvana, keep the time. Okay, now turn to the person next to you and share your responses with each other. Turn to the person next to you, share your responses with each other for a minute. Okay, would someone like to share with me what their partner has shared with them? To me, success is, you can just shout out the answers or your responses if it's short. Anybody would like to do that? Would like to try? To me, success is happiness, okay? Some other responses. To me, success is, excuse me? Peace, okay. Happiness, peace, satisfaction. All right. Now, I'm sure you're sharing with your friends, you will see that success means different things to different people, yes? Interestingly enough, I was looking for the definition for success, and to my surprise, according to the Collins Dictionary, the attainment of success is the attainment of wealth, position, and honors. I'm sure you disagree with such a short, with such a narrow definition of success. Success definitely means more than that. Right? I'm sure from your sharing, it doesn't mean that when you have wealth, you have position, you have honors, you can say, I've been successful. Probably a part of it, but not the only meaning of success. If you look at some of the quotes from very, very successful people, Steve Jobs, how does he define success? He says, according to Steve Jobs, being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't mean much to me. Going to bed at night saying we have done something wonderful matters to me. This is coming from someone who's very famous, who was very wealthy. And this was what he had to say about being successful. Meaning, to him, wealth and fame and honors is of little significance in the big, big picture of life. It means much more than that. What about Jack Ma? According to Jack Ma, if you want to win in the 21st century, empower others, making sure other people are better than you, then you will be successful. So according to Jack Ma, he considers himself successful only when he can make someone else better than him, only when he can collaborate with others, only when he can help others to become even better than himself. So that is his definition of success. Steve Jobs' definition of success is when you feel that you contribute something, when you feel that you've done something good, so that's success. What about Winston Churchill? According to Winston Churchill, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that matters. That resonates with you. That resonates with all of us as teachers, right? Whereby, when we talk about success, it is much more than, the end thing. But actually, it means more than that. Grit, how you persevere, how you face challenges head on, how you never give up. That is what success is. Whether or not you achieve the fame or the wealth or the honors, that's a different thing. But you know you have tried, whatever you have set your mind to do, you have tried your best and you have never given up. So as teachers, I think this resonates very well for us. Yeah? Sometimes we may not find our students achieving what we hope them to achieve, but you know that success is not final. And even if they don't do well, it's not fatal. But it's the courage for your students and for yourself to want to continue. That's what matters. Todd Ross wrote a book called, what is it? Something to do with, God, it passed my, but anyway, Todd Ross, he wrote a book, and in the process of writing the book, he interviewed around 500 people, and he asked them these 2 questions. He asked them to choose which one, he asked them to state which one is their choice. His first question is that, if you can be the person you want to be, you have meaning and purpose in your life, or do you choose to be wealthy, famous, and rich? The first choice was to have meaning and purpose in life. The second choice was to be wealthy and to be famous. Guess how many percent? Guess the majority of the respondents, did they choose the first choice or the second one? Fame or meaning and purpose? 97% of the respondents chose having meaning and purpose in life to be considered as successful rather than wealth and fame. But strangely enough, 92% of them felt that other people will choose choice number 2. They chose choice number 1, but they believe that, or they think that 92% of them think that the other people will choose number 2. So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say here is that being successful is very much more than just achieving fame and wealth and honors, like what Collins Dictionary define it to be. If we measure success by having meaning and purpose in life, if we measure success by being happy, if we measure success by doing what you enjoy most, if we measure success by doing what we are most passionate about, do we measure success like that in school? No. We keep telling ourselves success is when you have meaning in life. Success is when you have purpose in life. But when it comes to your school students, you measure their success in a different way. I remember during the forum yesterday, one of the panels, Dr. Kadori, he was talking about the, what was that? The dehumanizing assessment. Remember, he talked about dehumanizing assessment. This is usually what we typically do in school, correct? Your students write a piece of essay, then you'll do the red marks correction there, and then you probably give them a grade. Same thing as reading comprehension. Okay, you'll mark your students' work and you say, oh, you've got 7/10 correct, and that's it. Does it bring a lot of meaning to your students just by looking at marks? Even good students, when you give their exam papers back, they want to know why they score high marks, correct? Not just why they score low marks. I remember I used to love it when my English language teacher, Mrs. Lu, I remember, I was in St. Mary's back then. Every Wednesday, she was my Form 3 English language teacher. Every Wednesday, it will be essay writing day. I will look forward to it because every Wednesday, while the rest are writing their essays, Mrs. Lu will call us one by one and will tell us how we did in our essay. Until today, 40 plus years later, I still remember her exact words. I wrote an essay, no, it wasn't Form 3, it was Form 1. I wrote an essay on my family. And she called me when it was my turn to be assessed and for feedback. And she told me, do you know, I really enjoy reading your essay. It was so funny. You have such a way with words. You make me imagine your sister. You make me imagine your brother. 40 plus years later, her words still ring clear in my ears. Do you remember that particular teacher who took the time to give you the feedback? Even if the feedback is to say that you have not done as well as you should, but it matters. So, talking about giving feedback, marks, scores do not mean much to a student, even if it's high score, not as much as when you give them feedback on why they score as they did. And when we were in primary school, I don't know whether you still do this as well, do you ask your students, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? And then we start to box these students into categories. The one who say, teacher, I want to be a doctor. Teacher, I want to be an engineer. Teacher, I want to be a lawyer. Straight away box, oh, those 3 students, brilliant, motivated students. Any other answers will go to other boxes, correct? Admit it. Usually when the students say, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. When I grow up, I want to be a lawyer. Mentally, you already box them as, oh, these are the brighter ones. These are the more motivated ones. Other responses, you box them as probably the less motivated ones, the unfocused ones, or whatever boxes that you put them in based on their responses. Actually, asking students, what do you want to be when you grow up, and giving them positive affirmation, you know, when they choose careers that are professional, give them a very narrow view of their choices of career, actually. And it also reinforces societal expectations. Does it mean that only when you become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, then you're the bright one, you're the ones who contribute more to the society? Everybody has got their role, whatever career that they choose, but they have to be the best in whatever career they choose. That matters most. So we should be asking different questions. We should not be asking students just stopping at what do you want to be when you grow up. We should be asking them, what are you interested in? What do you do very well in? What would you like to learn about? How do you feel about working with your friends? Meaning the type of questions that we ask to our learners should be geared towards getting them to, or encouraging them to explore their strengths, their likes, their passions, their interests. Okay? And when we talk about success, yesterday, Tan Sri Zulkifli, I think, spoke about the FPK, the National Philosophy of Education. If we want to look at successful students, I think the National Philosophy of Education spells it out very clearly for us. Whereby what we want after our students leave school is for them to be individuals who are holistically developed. And then we want them to be good citizens, knowledgeable, competent, good moral values. And more importantly, they have a very high level of personal well-being so that they can contribute back to the society. I think the philosophy of education spells it out very clearly for us what successful students look like. How are successful students These are the type of success. This is how we measure success in a student after they have left school, and we produce these individuals here. Holistic individuals, competent, knowledgeable, good moral values, very high level of personal well-being, and then they can contribute back to the society. The next question that I'm going to ask you, to what extent is our hard work yielding the desired results? We work very hard. I'm very, very sure every teacher, everyone in this room, every teacher out there works, every day works very, very hard to make sure their students succeed. I applaud you. I take my hat off to you, because I know that almost every single teacher that I meet, when you ask them about their students, they'll be worrying about their students. I hope I'm doing the right thing with my students. I hope that I'm creating an impact with my students. And they're constantly pondering on the impact on their students, which is a very good sign. So we give them more essays to write. We give them more reading comprehension to do. We drill them on grammar, hoping that our effort will somehow get them, if they are sitting for their XPM, that A, that very much coveted A, or if they are if it's a classroom-based assessment, bringing them up to Tahap 6. Then you do all this drilling and whatnot. But is it bringing the desired effect? All that hard work that you put in. Employers out there talk about the employability skills of our graduates. And what do they say about our graduates? Not all, but about those graduates who come for interview. They say that they are not able to communicate well. They do not know how to perform well during interviews. They do not know how to express their opinions well. Yesterday, I was at University of Technology, Sarawak, and I was having a conversation with the Dean of Creative Design, a School of Creative Design, and we were talking about education, and he was telling me, telling me that our students are actually very good, but they're very quiet. Can you, teacher, please, develop your students so that they'll be more confident when they speak? Because he says that during lecture time, if he asks the students any questions, nobody will raise their hand. Any responses, nobody will raise their hand. But the minute they leave the room, they'll be clamoring and asking questions to the lecturer. So he was saying in the classroom, his students do not speak. And he says it's not just one class. Most of the students, he says, when they come in for their degree program, even at the degree level, they are not confident enough to express themselves. So this is the question: to what extent is our hard work yielding the desired results? I have come across not one, not two, but quite a number of cases whereby that particular student scored an A during their SPM exams. But when it comes to using the language and communicating in English, they do not have the confidence. How did they get that A? You start to wonder. And I did ask one of them, actually. I said, you scored an A in your English language paper, and how did you do it? She says that, my teacher was very hardworking. She analyzed the past year's papers, and then got us to memorize essays, and taught us how to change certain adjectives. Are you doing that with your students? Yeah. Taught us how to change the adjectives to suit the situation. So that's why many of us scored an A. So that teacher was very hardworking, analyzing, trying to get the students to score that A in the SPM paper. But that A, does it reflect a true A, or is it a hollow A? If you score an A in your exams in the English language paper, you should be very proficient in the language. You should be very confident in using the language. You should, you should be very comfortable conversing in the English language. But it does not seem to be so for some students. So we go on working hard, giving our students more essays, giving them more exercises to do, but, oh, hold on. How do I go back? I hope we are not doing this, shoveling coal faster into the furnace, hoping that the train will go faster. No matter how fast you shovel the coal into the train, it will not make the train go faster. If we are working so hard but not yielding the results that we desire, then we have to review our practices. Does it play? Can you play the video? Okay, watch this. So I hope, all our hard work does not go to waste. Because that man was trying to shovel the snow from the wrong car. It wasn't his car, he was shoveling the wrong car. And I hope that when we teach our students, when we assess them, keep this in mind. Whatever that I'm doing in the classroom, what sort of impact is it bringing to my students? So what do our learners need, actually? What do our learners really need? Now, in the World Economic Forum, in the year 2020, the top 10 skills that was highlighted during the forum, top 10 skills of the year 2025, analytical thinking and innovation, teaching your students how to analyze, teaching your students how to innovate, active learning and learning strategies, teaching your students learning how to learn how to learn. Does that make sense? Teaching your learners to learn how to learn. Very successful people have got very good learning strategies. Do we teach our students learning strategies? Complex problem solving, critical thinking, leadership, technology use, technology design and programming. Very important, resilience. Do we teach our students resilience? Do we teach them stress tolerance? Do we teach them to be flexible? Do we teach them reasoning? Do we teach them problem solving? The activities that we do with our students in our teaching and learning, does it all gear towards developing these skills in our students? So when you plan your lesson, when you go back to school, which is on Friday, you go back to school on Friday, think, these activities, these teaching and learning activities that I'm doing with my students, is it gearing them towards developing all these skills, which is so much needed in the future? I want you to look at this one. Stop. Can you stop? Okay. If the learning outcome for that boy just now was to be able to jump on the chair, what grade would you give him? If the learning outcome was to be able to jump and balance himself on the chair, what grade would you give him? Tahap, you want to use tahap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, tahap berapa? Okay. Tahap berapa? If the success criteria is for the boy to be able to jump on the chair and balance himself. Tahap berapa tu? You're discussing. Let you think about it for a while. Can we go back to that video and continue? Go back to the video. Yeah. Go back. Slide 17, I think. Slide 17. 17. 16. Yeah, 18, sorry. Slide 18. I'm going to play this video once again.
미tun이야. 아야, 그렇지? 오케이. 뭐요?
Do you know how many attempts he made to climb on the chair and balance himself? Did you count? Do you want to see the video again? 9 times. 9 times he attempted, and he did it on his 9th try. First try, he fell off the chair. Second try, he still fell off the chair. Third try, he fell off the chair. In fact, fourth try, not only did he fell off the chair, he rolled on the floor. It looked even worse than the first three tries. Fifth try, he fell off the chair. 6, 7, 8, and on the 9th try. Did you see that look of triumph on his face? Now, what score are you going to give to this boy? What grade? I'll use grade now. A+. Does the A+ justify the grit, the perseverance that he showed? Is that score A+, just a number, just a letter A with plus? Does it justify the hard work that he put into it, the determination that he put into it, the grit that he showed? It does not justify, isn't it? Yeah? Look at the process of how he got to scoring that A+. So, if we were to liken this with our students learning, it's not so much the grade or the score that they get. It's the process that they go through that you should acknowledge and you should appreciate. Some students may not do well in their first try. Don't give up on them. Let them try again and again. Because you know why? We are teaching them grit and perseverance. Don't mollycoddle them. Oh, they cannot do it. Let's lower the standard. It's wrong to do that. We don't lower standards because we want to make sure that they have the feel of success. They need to know true success, not because you lowered the standards for them. Teach your students grit and perseverance. Teach your students determination. Teach your students a thirst for success. If you give them a taste of success, it will be very addictive, correct? Reflect on yourselves. When you when something is so difficult for you to achieve, when you finally achieve it, you want more of it. And you're willing to go through long hours of practice for you to achieve what you desire. Am I correct? So don't give up on your students. Get them to persevere, get them to try their very best so that they can feel the taste of the success. But you have to be with them. You have to be with them, and you have to support that learning process for them. If you look at that video just now of the little boy trying to balance himself on the chair, jumping and balancing himself on the chair, it started off with failure, correct? He fell off the chair so many times. In fact, not only fell off, but rolled on the floor in his 4th try. Failure. But failures should always be seen as opportunities to improve. Therefore, in your teaching and learning, do you create that environment whereby your students see errors as opportunities of learning? Or are they scared to make errors because their friends will laugh at them, or the teacher will say, oh, what a silly answer that you have given us? So how do you create that environment whereby errors are seen as opportunities of learning, so that your students are not scared to respond in class? Many of us, when the presenter asks you a question, you dare not raise your hands for fear of your answer being not acceptable by other people. Am I correct? But so do the other 200 plus people. They're all feeling the same thing as well. And I'm also guilty of it sometimes. When the speaker asks a question, actually I've got the responses, I want to respond, but I'm thinking, what if my response is, it makes me look silly? Probably because I was trained in school, perhaps, that errors are seen as weaknesses, but not opportunities of learning. So how you correct your student, how you get your students' responses, whether it's correct or wrong, you must always assure them of that environment whereby errors are seen as opportunities of learning. Hard work, not giving up when they don't do well, so that we teach them resilience and perseverance, so that they will get the taste of success, and that will bring them to want to grow, giving them the growth mindset. John Hetty, I'm sure you've all heard of him, okay? Professor John Hetty, very well known for his visible learning. In his book, Visible Learning, the sequel, which was launched, I think, this year, 2023, it's a result of a synthesis of over 2,100 meta-analysis, which involves 400 million, I'm not talking 400,000, 400 million children in the world, Malaysia included. And what did his analysis show? Factors. He was doing an analysis of factors that will that contribute to students' success. The one that has a very big size effect is that teachers having high expectations of their students. Just because the students, a particular student or a particular class, do not do as well as other classes, it doesn't mean you lower the standards. Every teacher must have very high expectation for their students to succeed. And that's how learners succeed as well, because their teachers expect and have high expectations of their students being successful. Not only that, John Hetty's analysis also shown of 400 million children, the data, that successful learners have teachers who all move towards explicit success criteria. The success criteria is very explicit. The learner know what they're supposed to achieve. The teacher makes it very clear to them. Another one, which I talked about just now, a climate of high trust where errors are welcome as opportunities to learn, has a very big size effect of 0.72. Size effect of 0.4 and above will have an impact on the learners. So when it's 0.72, that means it has a very big impact on learners. Using the Goldilocks principle of challenge. Remember Goldilocks and her porridge? Not too cold, not too hot, just nice. Meaning not too difficult, not too easy as well, but just right for your students' level. In order for you to apply the Goldilocks principles of challenge, you have to know your students very well. You have to profile your students so that you know whether it's too hot for your student or too cold or just nice for your student. There is no such thing as average student. I don't like the word average student. How can a student be average when every single student is different? There's no such thing as average children. So when you use the Goldilocks principles of challenge, when you teach your students, that means you need to know your students very well. It should not be one size fits all. So that's why we talk about differentiated instruction. And that has a size effect of 0.74. It's worth, working hard for this to achieve these factors. Because the size impact, data, I'm not talking about my own experience, this is big data, shows that when you do all this, it will impact on your students' learning. And another one, which has a very big size effect, teachers working together as evaluators of their impact. 1.2, meaning how often do you discuss with your colleagues? I'm sure they have their science teacher, their maths teacher, their English teacher will be you, their BM teacher. Do you discuss about your students' achievement? Because sometimes children behave differently in different teachers' class. Sometimes they are very active in your English language class, but the maths teacher will say, no, that's not the girl, we're not talking about the same girl. She's so different in maths class. Or she can be the student who is very quiet in your class. So the conversations that you have with your colleagues are very important because then you have a holistic assessment of that child. They will respond differently to different teachers. So teachers working together as evaluators of their impact has a very big size impact on their students' development and their students' success. Now, Sir Ken Robinson, we've been talking about this the past 2 days, okay? He says when it comes to assessment, the traditional method of assessment is assessment of learning. So we call that summative assessment. This morning, you had a very long lecture on formative and summative assessment. So you're very clear about that. What people like to talk about now in the 21st century teaching, a model is assessment for learning, which is formative assessment. But if assessment is merely the way we are able to determine how much learning has occurred, then the ultimate goal is assessment as learning, where assessment occurs in real time and is the process by which the students reflect on their own thinking and diagnose how they've changed. Assessment as learning. This is where the students self-assess. This is where the students reflect on their growth. This is where the students document their growth as well. Assessment as learning. And this is a very powerful influence on students' development as well. Like I said, successful people have very effective learning strategies. So the way you learn, if you reflect on what you have done, you will learn faster. So do we train our students to reflect on how they're doing in class? Do you talk with your students? Do you have conversations with your students whereby they share their reflection on how they've grown, how they've developed, and how they're moving towards their desired goal? This is a model or an extended view of assessment by Hetty Martin. I had the opportunity to listen to Hetty Martin share on learner-centered assessment when I attended the World EduLate Congress in Singapore sometime in April this year. And this was the model that she put forward, that she says will be an extended view of assessment in which there's mastery, there's growth, and there's disposition. We probably will stop at mastery most of the time, yes? You have this success criteria that your students want to achieve. Once they achieve it, okay, stop there. But if you look at this model, mastery is where the students ask themselves this question: what can I do related to desired expectations? So how do the students know? The performance assessments, the standardized assessments, the rubrics. But what about growth? Do you get your learners to think about how they've grown? You come in January, by March, do you have conversations with your student? Hamida, how do you think you have improved in your English from January until February, now it's March? Do you have such conversations with your students? Goal setting is very important so that your students know where they are going, not just go with the flow. Because if they just go with the flow, in life later on, they'll also go with the flow. You know, I forgot where I read it, but a large majority of American graduates in a survey done, after graduating from the university, still do not know what they want to do. So from school, from they are young, we should be teaching them about goal setting so that they have meaning and purpose. They know what they want. They're clear about what they want to achieve. So portfolios, progress monitoring comes in. Mastery, looking into their growth. What about their disposition, their behavior, their attitudes? How do my behaviors contribute to reaching my full potential? So this is where self-assessment comes in. Portfolio, observation by the teacher, constant conversations with the students, between the teacher and the student, between students and their peers. This is how good learners think. John Hetty says, this is how good learner thinks. A good learner knows or recognizes when he or she is ready for the next step. How many of our students, do you do this regularly with your students? You know, they've got this goal and you talk to them about their goal, then you say, okay, how far away are you from your goal? Are you going towards there? Do you do that with your students? Do your students know what to do next? Do your students know where they're going? Do they monitor their progress? Do they know how to work well with their friends? Do they know how their behavior is contributing towards achieving these goals? Thank you. So this is how good learners think. And you have to train them to think like this through the activities that you do in the classroom with them. Okay, John Hetty again. This was a book written in 2018. Remember, I talked, many of the panel yesterday during the forum also speak about the importance of feedback. This is data. Data, which is a meta-analysis of, which is a synthesis of over 800 meta-analysis done by John Hetty and his team. And they say that the biggest size effect on students' learning is feedback from the teacher. Look at the size effect, 0.62. It's ability grouping, very little effect. Putting them into, their proficiency level, let's say. Putting the low proficiency ones together, the high proficiency ones together. Very, very little size effect, 0.09 only. One-to-one laptops, we think that it's going to bring effect. Size effect is only 0.16. Discovery-based teaching is only 0.21. Inquiry-based teaching, 0.60. Feedback is something that you can do regularly. And believe me, it's worth it because the size effect is 0.62. Data shows, very, very strong evidence shows that it's worth it for you to give feedback to your students. And your feedback must be TSA, timely, meaning you don't wait to give the feedback 3 weeks later to your students. The best kind of feedback is when you give immediate feedback to the students, when it's still fresh in their minds. Timely, specific. Feedback such as, good work, you have improved, is not enough. You should be more specific. You should talk about what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. And A is actionable. Feedback should always include action that the students can do to improve themselves. So again, feedback, it must have these 3 criteria. TSA, timely, specific, actionable. So before you just put a tick there and very good, stop yourself. Saying that tick and a very good, is it very helpful? It will be like shoveling snow off the wrong car again. And we also talk about, John Hetty talks about will, skill, and thrill. He says that when the children have the will and the skill and the thrill, if they have the will, the motivation, the environment encourages them, motivates them to do well, motivates them to discover their talents, to explore their interests, then it will encourage them to develop those skills. And once they develop the skills, they will be more motivated to invest in their learning. So it's skill, will, and thrill. Then you have to ask yourself as well, is your class an inviting place to learn? This is a survey done by Jenkins, and he drew up this graph to show the loss of enthusiasm among students. The enthusiasm or the interest to learn is very high when they are in kindergarten. But as the years go, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, 12 years old, the motivation level or the thrill to go to school is at its lowest. And then it slowly goes up, and usually that level where it goes up are usually those students who are active in school. Probably they're good in sports. Probably they are in the drama class. So they will still have that thrill to go to school. Can you imagine if we are able to reverse this graph? Let's say we can maintain that thrill the students feel when they come to your classroom, the same level as the thrill that they feel when they are in their kindergarten. I have many parents or friends telling me about how their kindergarten children cry when they are sick and they cannot go to school. Correct? Yeah? They cry because they say, I cannot miss because today we have acting classes. I have colleagues who tell me that their children will try their best to go to school and persuade their mom or their dad that they're well enough to go to school. But when the children reaches Form 1, they cry because they don't want to go to school. Isn't it? So we have to think about how do we maintain that thrill of going to class. Make your classroom an inviting place to learn. So how do you make your classroom an inviting place to learn? By creating meaningful learning. My 10 minutes is up. Yes, so I'll end off with this one. The quality of assessors is critical to the quality of the assessment result, by Pearl Zhu, Quality Master. Yesterday, Prof. Kodri, I think, remember he was saying about humanizing assessment, which is HA, equals to broadening the base, plus inclusive, plus quality assessors. So what I'm saying here is, our journey in learning never stops. Remember, success is not final, failure is not fatal. The fact that you have come to this conference, the fact that you diligently attend conferences to improve yourself is a very good sign to me. Continue learning. I'm sure many of you have learned a lot or have increased your understanding about formative assessment, particularly classroom-based assessment, over these past 2 days. And that is what you should be doing. Every opportunity you have to attend courses to develop yourself, go for it. If your school don't send you and you have to pay for it, pay for it. Don't wait for people to give everything free to you, because learning and improving yourself is your own responsibility. Believe me, I have always held to that philosophy of, if I want to improve myself, I'm responsible for it. So I have no qualms about paying. Whenever I have to go for courses, I'll pay my own way, and I will take my leave. Last April, when I attended the World EduLate Congress, I had to pay a few thousand for it, and on top of that, I have to take my annual leave. But it was well worth it. So I hope that every one of you in this room, and those who are listening and following us online, to never stop learning, so that you will be the best teacher that you can be for your students. With that, I thank you.
Thank you, Puan Anis. Ladies and gentlemen, teachers, could we please have a louder round of applause for Puan Anis? I mean, I think I speak for everyone, if I may, Puan Anis, that we will all be leaving out that door feeling a lot more inspired and motivated to do what we have to do as educators. So, yeah, before we call it a day, let us go back to the audience. Teachers, if you have any questions you want to raise or you want to ask, please do so. I'm sure Puan Anis would be more than happy to share her insights, her experiences.
No, Puan Anis says it's already 9:36, so there will be no questions, but I welcome responses to what I
My name is Win Pham. I am the Assessment Services Lead for Southeast Asia, Australasia, Japan, and Korea. It is a great privilege to be speaking at this conference of National Classroom-Based Assessment organized by the Ministry of Education in Malaysia. It has been we're very, very pleased actually to see that this conference is being organized because at Cambridge we have been talking more and more about learning-oriented assessment, about integrated learning and assessment. So the ministries of education in Asia, where I have the privilege to work with, have gained a lot more interest in this. So they've been talking a lot more about all of the IOA, LOA, and it's actually very, very important. We can see that classroom-based assessment improves learners' outcomes. It promotes learners' independence. It's encouraged lifelong learning, which basically is the ultimate of education, isn't it? So it's a great pleasure to see that this conference is happening, and I'm especially very, very impressed with the high-level participants of all of the delegates in this conference. In Vietnam, in particular, we've been working with the Ministry of Education in Vietnam and the National Foreign Languages Project to develop what we call the formative assessment guidelines and booklets for students from grade 3 all the way to grade 12. So we're very, very pleased to see that this conference is happening, and we hope that this is become something regular for the teachers, because I'm sure it's going to be very impactful for the teachers in Malaysia. Thank you.
Market and the economic landscape in Malaysia with the emergence of AI and whatnot. Basically,